I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video, which is my birthday book haul. Traditionally, this is a video that I film in conjunction with my Christmas book haul, but this year Christmas was all about household things to help make my lovely blue Victorian Florence feel a little bit more like home. However, basically I've been stockpiling books for the last month and a half in honor of my birthday, and I have a lovely little haul that I want to share with you guys. But before we talk about the books, if you're not subscribed to this channel, be sure to do so because it would mean the world to me, and we are inching so close to 1,000. So now that I've done my shameless little plug, let's dive right in. The first book that I want to talk about is Oh, Caledonia by Elizabeth Barker. This is one of these books that every time I saw it in a bookstore, my eye went directly towards it. It has a striking cover. Caledonia is in Scotland, and I love Scotland almost as much as I love Russia as a setting and a place. And so I finally picked it up. It's a very, very thin book, and it has a little introduction by Maggie O'Farrell of Hamnet and the Marriage Portrait, which is a book that I just started reading. And I'm very excited about it. It seems to be some sort of gothic murder mystery type thing. The main character, or the character who's murdered at least, is a teenage girl named Janet, I believe? Yes, Janet. Discovered in her Scottish Highland home, and there's no shortage of suspects. So it's supposed to be a little dark, like darkly humorous, gothic. I saw it compared to the Brontes and Edgar Allan Poe, so I am looking forward to picking this one up. It also feels like the perfect book to read as I'm just slowly re-emerging from my reading slump of doom, and shorter books are definitely a little bit more digestible at this time. But yes, stunning cover. The next book is another historical fiction, Briefly a Delicious Life by Nell Stevens. Again, the gorgeous cover. I am definitely feeling these moody sort of portraitures in cover art lately. But this is a book that I picked up for a few reasons. First of all, up here there is a blurb by Sarah Waters, who is one of my favorite authors, saying it's a gorgeous, wildly seductive novel, simmering with intelligence, humor, and joy. I adored this book. I've basically devoured anything by Sarah Waters that I've read. Also, the book is written by Nell Stevens, and I own one of her memoirs. I think it's called The Victorian and the Romantic. I haven't read it, but it's been one of those books that I desperately want to read, and so I figured I would pick up another book by her as well. But apparently, the main character of this book is a ghost, Blanca, who falls in love with George Sand, who is living or occupying the villa where Blanca died hundreds of years prior. And it just sounds like such an interesting premise to me. I love ghosts. Anyone who watches this channel regularly knows that. I don't go into much of the paranormal stuff, but ghost hunting shows, anything with ghosts, I'm there for it. So this definitely caught my interest. And like I said, it has a really gorgeous cover. The next book is another historical fiction, and it's Beasts of a Little Land by Juhia Kim. I listened to the pronunciation, but I know I'm butchering it. Noelle from over at Noelle's 7 Pages actually recommended this to me. It is a historical fiction. It's one of those like epic sagas that covers like half a century or more. And the book seems to at least start in 1917 in Korea, where this local hunter ends up saving this Japanese officer. I don't know how that ties into the rest of the book, but I do know that there's a young girl who is sold to a courtesan, and there's just seems to be a very rich sort of cast of characters here that I am very, very much looking forward to, especially because Noelle seemed to love it and think that it was right up my alley when I was asking for recommendations for books that I had to read and had to get for my birthday. So I will keep you posted on this. I am very, very excited. The cover, once again, is absolutely stunning. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. It seems like what Noelle said, right up my alley. The next book is more historical fiction because you know I love it, and that is The School of Mirrors by Eva Stachniak, which is actually a book that was on one of my anticipated releases videos from 2022. So I've been keeping my eye on this one for a while, and actually the author has a novel on Catherine the Great, which I now must buy, but maybe I'll wait until I see whether I enjoy her writing or not. In any case, this is a book set in France, in and around Versailles, kind of during the reigns of Louis XV and Louis XVI, so kind of the opulent French court. And it is about this school of mirrors, which is effectively a school for courtesans. These young girls are brought to Versailles in the Hall of Mirrors. They find lovers and patrons, and then once they kind of fall out of favor, they're married off and all of that. In this case, it is the story of a mother-daughter duo, Veronique, who ends up being shipped away when she's pregnant and gives birth, but her daughter, Marie-Louise, doesn't know her mother, doesn't know her father. She grows up, becomes a midwife, and her mother at some point reappears in her life, and her parentage becomes a secret that's revealed to her, if that makes any sense. But it sounds really good. This is not a time period that I've read a ton about, but I've definitely watched movies about it, so I'm very much looking forward to this. And I just realized that 2 of these books have courtesans in them. That was complete coincidence, though. So, yes. So the next 2 books I'm going to talk about together because they're by the same author. Basically, it's an instant buy author for me, or an insta-buy. I read Ann Petrie's book, The Street, I think in 2021. I became obsessed with it. I spoke about it so highly. It's one of those classics that I wish more people read because it was absolutely beautiful. And that ending, I can't stop thinking about it. So when I got a chance to pick up 2 more of her books, I jumped at them. So I picked up The Narrows and then also Country Place, and they're both absolutely beautiful, simplistic covers. I am so excited to read these. I think I'm going to try to read them in February. The Narrows is a bit of a chunkier book, but Country Place is on the shorter side. So in The Narrows, we have a young black man and a white woman who are thrown together by chance. And they're in a kind of racially divided community, and their friendship or relationship that evolves crosses the racial divides and the sort of social prejudices of the time. The black man, Link, is a Dartmouth graduate, a soldier, and brilliant, but opportunities aren't afforded to him because of his race, and he tends bars. Camillo is the woman, and he rescues her. He's kind of minding his own business, hears a woman like in distress, goes to rescue her from her attacker, and brings her inside of the bar, I assume, that he's tending, and they both realize that they're not the same race. And so I'm very intrigued to see this. These are, as I said, classics, so they weren't written as historical fiction. This is written during Ann Petrie's contemporary time, but her writing was so beautiful and just so nuanced, and I'm excited. And then Country Place is set in New England, and it seems to be about a relationship or a marriage. The husband comes back from World War II and starts questioning his wife's fidelity. So this one's a little bit different, but I am just as excited about it. And as I said, these covers are beautiful. I need to get The Street as a paperback because I think it's actually yellow, so they've stayed in kind of these pastel-y colored tones. And I love it, so I'm very excited about these. The next book is another one that I'm really excited about because I read the author's other book last year, when I was trying to come out of my reading slump, and it was just what I needed. It was so much fun. It was a historical romance, and it was just great. And so when I saw that another book was coming out by the author, I had my sights on it, and I decided to treat myself for my birthday. The book is The Runaway Duchess. Wow. The Runaway Duchess by Joanna Lowell, and the book that I read was The Duke Undone. So this is a character, Lavinia, that we saw in the first book. It's one of those series where they all kind of live in the same universe, but each book is on someone different. And it's set in the Victorian era. Lavinia ends up marrying this vile duke and inadvertently runs away in a case of mistaken identity when this young man thinks she is this famous botanist, and he's very into plants and is planning to go tromping across the Cornish countryside or whatever the case may be. And in this moment, Lavinia is like, do I return to my vile husband, or do I run off and pretend to be someone else? And you guessed it, she decides to pretend to be someone else. So it's a mistaken identity trope. I'm kind of interested because I really did enjoy the author's other book. That's not a trope that I've read in other historical romances or romances in general yet. So this will be a new flavor for me, but hopefully it's as good as the first book in the series. Very, very excited. Blanket statement, I'm very excited about all of these books, okay? Like, that's just the truth. The next book is another book, thanks to Noelle. I'll be reading this for her book club, which I believe the book club show is sometime in March, but this is the February read. It is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. I loved the Chloe Brown and the Brown Sister books. Like, they were just fun. They were some of the first romance books that I read. I thought they were the sweetest, steamiest things ever. So that's why Noelle asked me if I'd be interested in reading it. This is YA, which is not normally my cup of tea, but it's Talia Hibbert, so I'm here for it. The couple in question, one is really popular at school, and he was friends with the other main character until he decided she's a little bit too weird, like, for me with my popular friends. She's a conspiracy theorist, like, believer. So they kind of hate each other's guts now because he kind of did her dirty and was like, you're not cool enough to hang out with me and my new friends. But they end up on a, like, 2-part survival course together as partners, and so romance ensues, of course. It seems really, really sweet, very cute, so I'm looking forward to reading this, even though it is YA. But I did pick this up after Noelle asked me if I would do the book club, and I said abso-frickin-lutely. So this will be a fun one, I'm sure. So we have 2 more books, and my camera battery is about to die, so we'll see how far we get. They're both nonfiction, and the first is Off With Her Head by Eleanor Herman, and this is a book that I'm very excited about because I've read other books by Eleanor Herman and really enjoyed them. But this is all about, as it says, 3,000 years of demonizing women in power. This is such a book that is up my alley, and, like, oh, I have lots of receipts in here, but, like, the women that it talks about: Cleopatra, Anne Boleyn, Marie Antoinette, Catherine the Great. Like, yes, please. It just came out. It was on the new release section at Barnes & Noble's, and I was like, I have to have you. Took a picture of it, went back a few weeks later, and picked it up. But I'm very excited about this. Any books on women's history in general are going to be my bread and butter. So I'm looking forward to reading this. I also found when I read Eleanor Herman's other book that it was very accessible. Like, it's interesting information, but it's more approachable than some other historical nonfiction books that are out there. So this should be a fun one to read. The last book is something a little bit different for this channel. It's not the thing that I normally go for. Do I read biographies? Absolutely. Celebrity biographies? Not typically, but I had to get this. Truly Madly by Stephen Galloway. This is the book on Vivien Leigh and Laurence Olivier and their love affair. Vivien Leigh played Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. She played Blanche in Streetcar Named Desire. She is one of my favorite Hollywood actresses from the golden era. And Laurence Olivier, this brilliant Shakespearean actor who also did so many wonderful movies at that time period. They have quite an interesting life and love story, and a lot of like tumultuous things happening because if I remember rightly, Vivien Leigh was dealing with some mental health issues. But I am very excited to dive into this taste of the golden age of Hollywood with two actors that I have always been fascinated by. It is a bigger book, but I am so excited because, as I said, she's one of my favorite actresses and I'm obsessed with her. So need I really say more than that? I am very much looking forward to it. And this might have been a book that was on one of my anticipated releases for last year as well. I actually feel like it probably was, but I would have to check. But yes, very excited about this as well. With that, I've talked about all the books that I have bought for my birthday, hopefully before this camera battery dies, because it's blinking at me rather ominously. But hopefully I found some books that you will also enjoy, and if that's the case, let me know in the comment section. As I said, very, very, very excited about all of these books. Also very excited just to be excited about books again after being so stressed and in such a reading slump. But thank you everyone for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!